You can imagine it's a place of distress. When we first arrive to an incident, it's almost chaos, hectic. If you feel the energy in the room, there's not just one energy. There's so many. You come in, you have to just kind of wash yourself off with that. The best thing I do is Vaheguru, whether it's to me under my breath, to myself, and it carries me through. It cuts through it like a knife. And you can go and start doing what you're trained to do. And it just comes from a place of wishing well, that wherever this energy is going from this person, just wish them well. Whether they come back or they wake up or they are just not there anymore, whether they're leaving, it's almost sometimes I feel as if I'm watching myself do the CPR. And it's not always a win, but that was the biggest thing I'm taking from being here, is that any of these issues and problems I'm having, these dark places you go to, and all of these things that are causing you this, they're beating up your self-confidence, and they're almost like a weight. They take you further away from what you want. Being around the sangat, it just dissipates all of those things. Don't matter. How do you say it? Washes these ideas out of your mind. I was just wondering what would happen to them, and so I called the hospital. I said, look, I was here. This is what happened, and were they okay? They said,
welcome to this special podcast. In today's conversation, we'll be talking to Gurmeet Singh. Today's conversation will be about being in the midst of a journey. We often speak to people when they've reached a certain point, or when they're looking back to say how they've got to a certain point of their spiritual journey or their journey with Sikhi. But today is going to be something special, because we're going to be talking about how do you navigate when you're at a crossroad and you're trying to make decisions of how to move forward in your journey. So let's get straight into it and say Fateh to our guest, Gurmeet Singh. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki Fateh. So I'd like to start off this conversation, before asking you any formal questions. What would you say, what comes to your mind about being your first exposure to Sikhi or to the Guru? Like, what's the first strongest memory you have of Guru Nanak or Gurbani or Sikhi?
oh man, I go back to, I would say when I was young, and a lot of turmoil in the house, and I would kind of go into my room, and I didn't know too much about Sikhi, but I knew the word Vaheguru and Baba Ji, as my mom would say. And I kind of that would be my experiences speaking to Vaheguru, like praying just on my own.
How old would you say you was then?
Must have been somewhere around 12, 13 years old.
Even that within itself, I think, is so fortunate to be exposed to even that word, to Vaheguru, because I don't think I was growing up, and it wasn't a word that was upon my tongue. And very interestingly, you said it was where you would go and talk to. So what would that look like for you, that conversation?
I would ask for things. I would ask for problems to go away. I would ask for peace. I would ask just whatever I was feeling at that moment. I felt like I was talking to, and just coming from within. And often I wouldn't actually say anything. It would be all inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just be in my room. Sometimes I would go onto the floor. Sometimes I would just do Vaheguru Simran, which I got to learn from my Daya when we traveled to India when I was 13. It was the first time I'd ever seen anyone get up at Amrit Vela and do Vaheguru Simran. And I just happened to wake up and do it with them. That's stuck with me.
Oh, wow. So, and I think that's so amazing to hear, having that exposure, because you would think that somebody of that age and not really been exposed to any form of spirituality or Sikhi, but you wasn't told to do anything, but something that you just observed.
Yeah.
When you saw your Taya?
Yeah, I just happened to get up that day, and probably one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Oh, wow. It reminds me of a line from Gurbani when Guru Sahib says that Purb Karam Ankur Jab Pargate Petyo Purkh Rasak Bairagi. Maharaj says that there's certain things that we do in the past, and all these then dots start to line up. Like nothing is random. So when we think about exposing our children or whoever it might be that is around us to these things, they are going in. And one day that opportunity is being built for that to sprout one day. Like we've been speaking now, we've been together for the last, week or two, but I've not heard this. And I was thinking that we're just going to regurgitate our conversations that we've been having, but it's amazing how something new will come through. So just talking about this line is that garam is just an action, meaning that you was exposed to something, you heard and you saw somebody get up early in the morning and he was just reciting Vaheguru.
Yeah.
And then years later, you found yourself in your bedroom.
In the same rhythm.
Oh, wow. And that is the Ankur Jab Pargate, when something starts to manifest and come forth and it's sprouting from somewhere and everything starts to connect up. And I think that it's so important to understand that we sometimes can be so hard on people to say, well, this is exactly what it means to be on this path. But it's so important to allow people to connect somehow and however, and you don't know what that's going to lead to one day. So from that, that was there for you. So it sounds like there was this connection and relationship for you just with this mantra, with the word Vaheguru. And then later on in your life, choosing a path or a career, how did that come about for you? Where was the drive and for you to choose what you want to do in life?
That's tough. It was definitely that feeling of wanting to help in some way, not sure which way, but finding a way to help community, be a role model, just give the best of me that I could.
So your drive wasn't that, just want to survive, want to earn money, want to become rich?
No, I mean, I knew I had to earn a living somehow, but I didn't know how. But I did know I did have I was very sure I wanted to do something for the community.
Was you exposed to that idea from anybody immediate in your family, or because I remember like growing up, and it was like in my mind it was never, all right, how can I serve, how can I give back to the community? It was always about, right, how am I going to live, how am I going to make money?
It was definitely coming from a different place I had not prior to that felt before. Being, I remember I was about 18 years old, and that's when I started feeling this emotion. I'd gone through some rough times, some depression, and kind of coming out of that, there was a strong sense of this. I need to do something. I need to contribute. I need to feel good about this, and just trying.
Yeah. Would you like to touch, obviously only if you're comfortable, maybe what that looked like for you when you was going through that dark period, and where those struggles were present for you?
Yeah, I think it was in my later high school years. I guess in Canada we call it high school.
Yeah, by the way, Gurmeet Singh is from Canada. I'm sure you've picked it up by now from his accent, from good old BC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was around that time, around my later years in high school, where, things were changing. You're graduating, your friends, everyone's going different ways. And there was the sense of loneliness. There was a lot of turmoil in the home. Things just didn't seem as together as they were. And I felt very alone, and kind of fell into this self-loathing, depression, anxiety, didn't really want to go anywhere or do anything, and just wanted to be alone. But then also that sense of alone was just killing me. Slowly trying to pick myself up. I remember during those times getting up early and really early, and trying to do Vaheguru Simran. And I just didn't think in my mind, I can't do this all day. I have to do something. And kind of slowly piecing together things. And the idea of becoming a firefighter, police officer, or something in that service started kind of floating around. And it gave me some sort of a purpose to work towards. I thought maybe I can do this. And I remember doing a corrections officer, like it's a prison guard. And I thought, I was 19 years old. I was the youngest one in the class. And I just didn't know. I didn't think I could do it, but then ended up passing it successfully. And from there, that's when I had that confidence to keep going. And it just built from there. And everything was a blessing. I know you've said that to me, and I felt the same thing. I understood that, is that every step where I felt good, I felt like I was moving in a direction, it was a blessing. Whereas maybe before that, if I had succeeded at something, it would have been not as big for me. But coming out of that time, it just meant so much that it was like another boost to keep going.
So whilst you was going through that period and having those moments of low and feeling lonely, so you still continued, and you would still wake up and say Vaheguru and do some form of like Simran during some, maybe not every day, or
not every day, but it would come back to me. Yeah.
And then from somewhere there was this this longing to serve somehow.
Yeah.
And again, there's a beautiful line where Guru says that Sev kiti santokhi jini sacho sach te aaya. And this line, it actually defines for us what it means to serve. And they're saying that you can only truly serve when it comes from this place of contentment. And even though it might seem like, well, this is feeling low and lonely and lost, but when the drive isn't actually the riches, and it isn't about the ego and how I'm going to be this great person, but it's about, okay, so how can I be of service? And if that's the only thought of how can I be of service, and that means it's coming from a place of, it's not for your ego boost, yeah, and it's not to embed and grow this huge identity of self, but instead it's coming from a more content place. And then the Guru says it equals to service if it's coming from that place of not saying, well, yeah, I'm doing this for this return, for my own ego. And jini sacho sach te aaya, what that means is then it becomes a means of connecting to that truth, to Vaheguru. No?
Yeah.
And then, so why don't you go into and tell us a little bit about then joining that service of then what was it that you did end up becoming?
So yeah, I ended up starting off with maybe policing and kind of going through this path, this kind of off path. And finally someone had mentioned, have you thought about doing firefighting? And I hadn't. And the idea to start I was intrigued. I started looking into it. Is this something that I would fulfill that feeling of service? Is this that life that I could go for? And going into fire halls and just kind of trying to meet people and just getting the blessings of being able to get some insight. I thought it's either I do it or I don't. I have to make the decision. And at the time I didn't have enough money to pay for the course. I didn't have a vehicle. It was tough, but it worked out with the Guru's Kripa, that it just happened. I ended up getting into the course. It was challenging. It's one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life. But like you said, the drive wasn't, if it was for just money, I would have quit because it was hard. It was tough.
And I think you was mentioning when we were speaking in the last few days, the difficulty wasn't only the challenges where like you said, you didn't have money for the course, but there weren't many other Sikhs or... No. I mean, growing up, I was kind of used to that. Growing on mainly a Gorai community, there were Apne that were tight knit, but I was different. Being an Apna in this service is kind of rare. It's not that often that they're there, and so having that disconnect versus I could only imagine if there was a bunch of Apne Sikhi bande doing it, it would have been a different thing. But having that was a separate challenge on its own, that you're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. And then obviously moving through then that process of going from getting into the service of firefighting and working yourself through it. And I know I'm just skipping a huge part here of that process and everything you would have had to go through to get to that point. But when then some of this service started to be seen and put into place, And I think it's really important. What I'd love for listeners to know is that we often segregate and divide what is bhagti, what is devotion, what is service, what is seva. It's so important to understand that seva or bhagti or devotion isn't the task that you are doing, but it's how you are doing the task. So I can't say that if I lift this glass of water and I pass it over to you, that is bhagti, or that is seva, or that is service. The seva that the Guru talks about, the bhagti that the Guru talks about, is how I do that. Yeah. And the how is the bhagti is the sheer dedication in doing it, in the way you do that. So it's all in, it's full surrender to that task. It's sheer love, and when I say sheer love, I'm saying that there's this wish for your well-being behind it. Yeah. That's what makes service, and that's what makes bhakti. That's what makes devotion. So you do it with, so it's just, and then keeping that in mind then, I really want Sangat to know that, not to segregate your life, to say, this is my part, this is my bhakti, and it's this task, and this is work, and this is just this, and this is just this. Like, life doesn't have to be like that. And that's why I think so many people are then disappointed with their lives and careers and what they are doing, because you separate life, segregate life so much into these boxes and categories. So you say, when I sit down to do part, oh, that's my bhakti. But then when I go to work, that's just work. Well, really, okay, even if you're getting paid for something, it can still be done in a way of service, in a way of devotion. Yeah, that's irrelevant. So it's how you do something. And that's what I would love to hear about and speak about, is that, again, the Guru talks about this, where he talks about ehek nahi chakri, and like, what type of chakri is this, that Nanak sevak kadiye jaise ti khasam samaye. So Guru saying service is when you do it completely immersed. Yeah, it's completely immersed, seti khasam samay, and you're doing it, that is your service to God. So now, through all that journey, all the difficulties of your upbringing, everything, now you out there. Can you share about some incidents where you was out there in the midst of it, serving? And I know it's not only fire calls you get medical calls too in your service.
Yeah.
So
lots.
Like, keep it wide. Okay. Whatever that call might be, share something where you've had that call and it's been surrender, bhakti, it's your service to God in that moment. How has that turned up for you in your life?
So I think when you're doing this, you're in this career path of service, of any service really, but I'm going to speak from specifically my experience in firefighting. You go to so many of these medical calls, and they don't always work like you think they're going to work. You don't always get the answers that you think you're going to get, that you're going to save this person, or it doesn't always work like that. And it was a part of accepting the Guru that it's, example, doing CPR on someone, there's a profound moment I remember that I had just not necessarily given up, but I had given in. I just thought, these are your hands. This is, whatever is going to happen is not up to me, but take my hands and make them your own and just do the best I can.
Wow.
And those moments, they're the ones I cherish.
And what would that look like in that moment of providing that CPR from that place? And maybe give us, I'm not sure how much you're allowed to share, but what that type of case might look like, and who if it's somebody old or young, of who you are in that specific case that you may have dealt with, and what it was like, and the emotions in that moment, how it would have been for who you are going out to.
Well, it's hard to apply it to one, because from that moment, from those moments, I that's where I live when I'm in those situations now. It's where I immediately have to go, because it's what brings me it closer, and it's where I'm completely focused. So if you can imagine it, it's a place of distress. When we first arrive to an incident, it's almost chaos, hectic. If you feel the energy in the room, there's not just one energy. There's so many just vibrating around in the room. There's panic. There's distress. There's so many. So when you come in, you have to just kind of wash yourself off with that. The best thing I do is Vaheguru, whether it's to me under my breath, to myself, and it carries me through. It cuts through it like a knife. And you can go and start doing what you're trained to do. So these ideas, okay, this is what we need to do next. This is what we need to do next. And quite often when we're in the situation like that, and there is family, but it drowns everything out. If you've ever felt like you're underwater, like you go from hearing everything to dunking your head underneath water in a pool. It just blah, 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 blah. They're very faint. Everything turns faint. That's the same feeling I get when I start doing my Simran while I'm doing the CPR. So if you could imagine, I start pressing on someone's chest, and we do it to a certain rhythm. And once you get into this rhythm, then that's when you find your place, and you're there for a few minutes, and then you take a break and you breathe, and your partner goes in, and now they're doing it. And I don't know where they go, but that's where I go. and I just comes from a place of wishing well, that wherever this energy is going from this person, I just wish them well, whether they come back or they wake up, or they are just not there anymore, whether they're leaving. It's almost sometimes I feel as if I'm watching myself do the CPR. And it's not always a win, but it feels a lot less like losing when I'm in that place.
Wow. Yeah. Nice. That's Vaheguru. Yeah. Those are some. I think you was. And again, we always say to the sangat, that we don't want these conversations and moments just to be. It's not information. Be on the journey with us. Like obviously, I felt that, and you took me to that place. So it's like I was able to be with Vaheguru in that moment. And so even whilst you're listening to us, in that moment of silence, just be there. Like, take this moment for yourselves as well to do that Simran. And Simran means when you're in complete surrender and in the remembrance of Vaheguru. And that's where, that's what Guru Arjan Dev Ji is saying, that's where the sukh is truly. Because like you said, even though it might not be a win in that sense, but it doesn't feel like you've completely lost, because the remembrance of Vaheguru was there and that energy was being given in. That's what Guru Arjan Dev Ji is saying, simar, simar, sukh bhav. Sukh there's this sukh, a deeper sukh. There's this deeper contentment and okay in that remembrance when done in that way. And you know what? I normally wouldn't quote this bhagti, but Sukhmani Sahib came to my mind in this moment. And I know you had a moment in your life of a relationship with Sukhmani Sahib. Want to share something about that?
Yeah, it was actually right at the beginning when I was taking the course for firefighting. I was just coming out of that time, and I was in build phase. I was like learning about me, but I would play Sukhmani Sahib, and I didn't know Gurmukhi, so it was a challenge, but it would, like I was mentioning, it was take me double the time to do it, because I would
you would do it, or you would play it?
I would play it. So
okay.
And I would play in Punjabi, and then it would play in English right after. So I'd have the immediate. So I would play that, and someone had mentioned you should do this you should try to do this every day for like 45 days.
Okay.
And I thought,
so you had a version where it would be the Sukhmani Sahib in Gurmukhi, but then somebody saying it out in the translation?
Yeah, they would say it in Gurmukhi, then they would say it in English, and then they would go to the next line. It took about...
So then they would say the actual translation out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Interesting.
I was like lucky to have found it, because I used that.
And that would have been back into what?
2006.
Oh, wow. So there weren't even that many resources then. So to have found a version of Sukhmani Sahib with somebody reading out.
I could probably still find
audio,
it somewhere.
That's amazing. Okay.
And I was able to have it on my computer. So I would quite often when I was on downtime, because I was living on my own for the first time, I didn't have money to go out or do anything. So I would stay home, and I would read it in more depth and try to feel every line.
How did that come? Where did that come from?
I really don't know. I think
that wasn't your upbringing, was it?
No. I mean, my dad definitely would like to be involved with Gurdwaras and Sikhi, but it wasn't like taught to me. It was a self-learning moment, and I think it was that feeling of the service and that link to Sikhi, that goodness that put me there, and it was the feeling I was getting when I was really trying to relate to that feeling of, I don't know what I would say, that feeling, internal feeling I was feeling of energy. It was that kept me going back, and then I just somehow committed to, I'm gonna do this every day if I can. If I fail, I fail, but try again the next day. And
that was just to listen to the complete Sukhmani Sahib in one day with the translations, that you set yourself that task.
In one sitting.
Yeah.
I would have to listen to it in one sitting. I almost promised myself, if I don't listen to it in one sitting, you have to start over and do it all over again.
Oh, wow.
But time was my friend at that, I had time. It was just the training, and I had no time to do anything else, no money to do anything else.
And he got you through your training, right?
It did. It helped me. I would listen to it while I was on the treadmill at the gym and just run. And, there came to a point where I was listening to it. It was in Gurmukhi, then English. And it just started to just resonate with me to memories of me just going on the treadmill and not feeling tired, just in that moment, just even though my body's moving, and I was just still in the Sukhmani Sahib.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look, a bit of a random question, but connected.
Yeah.
As in what I'm going to ask next.
Okay.
Something might sound a bit random, but it's connected. And we've obviously spoke about this as well, is having that connection, then finding that connection with the Sukhmani Sahib in that moment, and And that doesn't mean your life is perfect. It doesn't mean you don't have certain habits. And then obviously often as Sikhs, we can do this quite often. There can be a lot of judgment because of the way somebody looks, because somebody may not yet have kept their case completely and fully. Where's your experience? What's your experience with that, with having those connections? Not necessarily, but then did you ever feel anything in regard to being judged or self-judging or anything like that in regard to your own image and Sikhi?
Of course, yeah. I think I kept Sikhi kind of close to me for a long time because I didn't have a dastard and I used to shave and like, so for me, there is that feeling. There's not just a feeling of maybe disconnect from me, but also disconnect from the community and feeling that not as much as a sense of belonging in that setting, but knowing that this should be still, like we all still have a connection. It's like I was saying, I think I might have mentioned it before earlier. I was mentioning that if I go into a Gurdwara, even now I feel like, because I still have to shave and I don't have a dastard.
So you just said have to. And that's obviously linked with
my work. My work is, it's a safety requirement. I have to be clean shaven for my operational duties. And
I know this is now kind of putting you maybe in a more vulnerable place, but then what would you say internally where you are in regard to your wish and longing in regard to that? Where are you with that?
Definitely. I mean, I don't shave on my days off. That's my way of keeping that connection with my kesh. I don't shave on my non-work days. Do I wish I could not shave every day? Of course. That's kind of a feeling I've been having for the last couple of years, maybe even a little bit longer, but mostly stronger over the last few years. And I have this vision in the future of me keeping it, being able to, but I know my fire service, I know I'll be in operations if I don't move for another 12 years. So I have this vision in 12 years.
Well, I'm not somebody that likes to put a time on something in that sense, because obviously Vaheguru is limitless. Vaheguru is beyond time. So just the way things are going to play out, I don't think we need to try and take so much control over that. We just don't know how things will go and fold out. There's just something deeper and bigger that is guiding us. That's probably not the right word, but even within yourself, if you've got that longing, you just don't know what direction that is going to take you. So, but that's great having the whole 12-year thing in your,
it's kind of like my,
that's all good, but Vaheguru is limitless. The Guru says, "Tu beyant ko villa jane." There's only very few that, truly know you to be limitless, to know Vaheguru to be limitless. So that means that's a great intention, but you just don't know how Vaheguru might play out for you if you've got that longing. So I know we we started off with talking about feeling judged, and that can come from others and yourself. And then we went down and we started talking about your case and how that might play out. And for now, we're going to leave that in the hands of Vaheguru.
Yeah.
Because if Vaheguru's got you so far, and let that inner longing allow that to fold out for itself. But just keeping that same topic in mind, have you ever felt any direct judgment, or has it been mainly your own internal self created judgment and assumptions? And then the second part to that question is, and then now being here, you've made this journey, you're here, you've come out to England, and then your experience and exposure with being with sangat. So if we talk a little bit about that.
Going into it, I think most of it was from, if I take all the actual experiences and things that have happened by me being in the Gurdwara, and if somebody said something to me or to make me feel that way, I think most of it was internal. I think most of it was, I was feeling that, looking around, that it's me, I'm feeling different, or I don't know enough, or I'm not good enough, or any of those items that you could feel about yourself, those negative thoughts. But comparing that to it's not the same as coming here.
But even that, I think that's so important too, because we hear this so many times of people feeling a certain way, and I am not for one moment completely disbelieving or saying that it doesn't exist, and where people don't have negative experiences, where people have then said very direct things and made people feel uncomfortable and not made them feel welcome. I don't dispute that that doesn't happen. But again, from speaking to many people, it does seem like a lot of it comes from some of the things that we then do also assume, and that become more exaggerated in our minds, to this is what they must be thinking. This is how I'm probably being perceived. Because from my perspective, I'm sat there, I get so happy, so excited when I do see somebody come in that you wouldn't often expect to come into the sangat, that may not have kept their case yet, or whatever it might be, or somebody might be thinking, oh my God, I've got too many tattoos, or oh my God, it's, you know, I've looked like this, or I come across like this, or whatever that might be. And I'm thinking the opposite, and I'm thinking, oh, amazing. They are here in sangat, that let's try and see what we can do to make them feel welcome and happy. And I know, look, that might not, and maybe I wasn't always there as well. And I'm sure I've been on the other side as well, thinking they need to do this, they need to be, you know, but so maybe then now speak about your experience of being then now coming here and exposed to your sangat and your experiences to that. And how did you even get here? What are you doing in England?
Yeah.
I
don't know. I didn't have a plan to come here originally.
What are you doing here?
Yeah. Well, now I feel like I belong here. But I know it was for my wife. You know, this was for her. She was supposed to be here on her own. And now we're all here, and I feel like it's more for me than her now. But I've kind of taking it in, because where else, the sangat is amazing. The being with all of you, I can't get enough of it.
So you weren't even supposed to be here?
No, I wasn't planning at all.
But this is what I mean, apparently.
Yeah.
Because look at all those seeds. your experience with Sukhmani Sahib, your experience with the Vaheguru Shabad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually not random if you think about it. Like all those things have contributed you to be here. And it was your wife, Ravi, that used to attend the contemplation sessions on Sundays, which are online, UK time, 6 p.m. Every Sundays we contemplate Gurbani. And it was your wife that would attend them.
Yeah.
And it was her that saw that we're going to be doing a retreat. The organization, Journey of Compassion, we're doing a retreat where there's going to be kirtan, conscious walking and all these different things. And it was her that booked on, and you said, I'll support you to go. As in not like go with you, but I'll look after, is this right?
Kids, yeah.
You look after I don't want to tell the story because you know it from that side.
Of course. Yeah. Dude, just you go. I've got everything here. Don't worry. This is, she'd been wanting to go. Was finding so much good energy from those contemplation sessions. And it's the first time I've heard her say, I'm going to go on my own.
And that was a huge thing for her because...
Huge. I would never have thought.
Because one of the things like Benji's experienced and is
fear of flying.
Fear of flying. And that's a huge thing for anybody that goes through that. It's not a small thing. And then to consider going on your own. Yeah,
it was an opportunity for me to just...
Actually, I'm still thinking...
Support her.
Yeah. Tu kidda pahunch gaye the?
Yeah.
So what happened in between?
So I think she had just thought maybe I don't know if I can go by myself. Actually, she had been back and forth on this, and finally I was talking to my son, and I think we're gonna go because she's got to go. And then we're all now heading on this journey. I didn't know much about it at all. I'm trying to read my emails.
Read the pack. Oh, yaar, main kitne challa yaar. You're trying to read the pack on the airplane.
I was like, I missed that sentence of this. Okay, this is what, I think I've got the gist of this.
Yeah.
And
going into the unknown.
Really, like I had no idea it was even in Wales where it was. I had no idea we were going there.
Yeah.
And just didn't know how we were even getting there. I didn't know any of this. And then from the moment I got there, it was mine.
I love that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
It just became... Yeah.
I'll take this.
Yeah. It just happened that way. I was super nervous before. And
that's amazing. There's actually a line by Kabir where he says lootna hai, taan loot le Ram naam hai. If you're going to loot anything, he says loot this name of God and that whatever form that turns up in. And I think, well, first you went to a football match, didn't you, when you got here? Yeah. Well, obviously, you're in the
we had to.
The land of football, we call it, and you call it
soccer.
Okay, chal koi nahi. And then it was, well, how are you going to make it how are you going to get to the retreat?
Yeah.
And even that
was like
a Gursikh turns up to drive you there that you don't know, never heard of, never met, and you're thinking, how is this happening? Like, why are you dropping us off this random thing?
It was almost comedic to see how it was all happening. It was just...
And I think that's literally being played out, isn't it? Charan, Sharan, Gur, Ek, Panda, Jaye, Chal, Sat, Gur, Kot, Panda, Aage hui leta hai. So this is Bhai Gurdas ji saying that we've all heard this line, you take that one step but you literally saw the magic in return of, the Guru play out his wondrous games and then maybe just share then when you walked in to the retreat then in that moment how it
It was amazing. If you've ever felt like you've been drawn in to something, imagine somebody actually physically grabbing you and drawing you in. It was like a heavy spirited moment, and kind of, I wouldn't even say cracks your shell, but just brings you into the aura. Just get in here and be you. Do your thing.
And one of your things that you find comfortable, and I think this is again very important to share with Sangat, is something that you're drawn to quite naturally when you're in that environment. There's another way of serving that you are drawn to, and that is
it's serving food, cooking food, serving food. And I think it was like a place I just kind of gravitated to while I was there. And the people, I was just welcomed, and it was an amazing experience to just fit into that.
And what did you make that one evening for everyone?
Bruschetta, yeah.
wasn't on the menu.
No.
And then, like, there's literally there's a role and there's a means of serving in the Guru's house. Like, just like Mata Khivi ji, Langar Daulat Vandiya Ras Amrit Kheer Kiyali, and Mata Khivi ji was the wife of Guru Angad Dev ji, the second Guru, and her way of serving was just like second to none, just phenomenal. They said, just like, when you see somebody would be distributing and giving out money on payday, and they've earned that money, and then you're now distributing it out, and you're happy to be giving it to them. And this is Mata Kiviji the Langar would be that wealth, and she'd be just like so happily just giving it out, like, and watching the excitement. And I can see how your face just lit up there, because I've seen that in you.
Yeah.
I've seen you cooking, and I've seen you getting emotional because you can't wait for Sangat to receive that Langar, and that filling your heart with excitement.
Just energizes you.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm trying to say is that, because that doesn't energize everyone. Like, everyone's got their little thing.
Yeah.
And that is so, I don't know why, but there's something inside saying to me whilst we're talking about all of these things, and I spoke right at the beginning, I introduced the podcast as we're talking to you today whilst you're in the midst, and even we come to crossroads as well. And I know we've come to many crossroads in life, and we're all in the midst in some way anyway. But that doesn't mean you haven't got struggles. That doesn't mean you don't fight certain demons and habits. And I think that's important for Sangat to understand, as now for certain other Gurseks, it might not be so obvious what those certain habits that they're trying to fight are, because they might turn up as a phone addiction, and then because it's not a karat, because it's not maybe a substance they are taking, so some of these addictions get overlooked. But it doesn't mean that even people that are well within Sikhi, that are Amritdhari, don't have certain addictions. All it is, they don't get highlighted as much, because it's not that the Guru hasn't specifically highlighted them. But whilst you have this longing, whilst you have this wish to serve, that wish for well-being for others, but it doesn't mean that everything's smooth sailing and there aren't some of these challenges that come up in life. You don't have to be specific. You don't have to go into anything as much as you're comfortable, but just talking about the other side of where there's struggles as well, whilst you've just had this amazing experience
Yeah.
through serving, through firefighting, and plus this experience and exposure to now the sangat and Sikhi that you've experienced here, plus the wish to keep your gaze, but because of work, but there's other challenges.
Yeah, of course. It's not all sunshine and butterflies, like we would say. But I'd like to say, being around the sangat, you don't think of those dark things. Being in the sangat, in these, around these good people, it's, how do you say, it washes these ideas out of your mind. So that was the biggest thing I'm taking from being here, is that any of these issues and problems I'm having, these dark places you go to, and all of these things that are causing you this, they're beating up your self-confidence, and they're almost like a weight. They take you further away from what you want. Being around the sangat, it just dissipates all of those things. Don't matter. That's the best way I can say, like, without diving deep into each and everything.
That's. And then obviously there's this then a sense of fear that comes along as well, then having to go back to normal environment, and then how do you then keep above and not go back to those habits?
And I keep thinking, like, the remembrance, because we leave the retreat, and we're just blessed to have spent more time with all of you, and just helping reinforce the remembrance. Like you were saying, put up those pictures of that speak to me, like of Baljit Singh in the, and have these things around just to keep reminding me that the sangat is there. And your advice for me, like, you'll find sangat. If that's what you're looking for, you'll find it. And I believe that. I believe that if you just keep it in your mind, you keep remembering it, do things that make you remember, wear things that make you remember, look at things to make you remember. Because going back, that's one of the biggest things for me, is that I'm not sitting beside Baljit Singh Virji. I'm not right here hearing him in my, directly in my ears, like in my vision. And so it's something I'm going to have to practice.
And I was saying this to Benji, to your wife, because certain people haven't had to fight so many battles and demons with certain habits, addictions, and use of certain things. They've not had those specific challenges, so they might not need as much armor to fight the battle.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for certain people to understand, well, but why can't they just stop? And the truth is, I've experienced addictions, obsessive behavior towards certain things, and I then know, for me, I would, like, for example, somebody might be able to go to the gym, work out for 20 minutes, eat half decent, and for some reason they just show up with a lot more muscle mass, they look good, and you just think, like, I would have to do 2 hours to get that same result because of just the way my body works. As an example for something physical, but also what we don't see is then mentally it works the same way. It might just be that I need to do 2 hours of remembrance, as you put it, of Simran in different ways, of looking at the paintings of our great Gursikhs, the Shaheeds, the Shastras, everything else. And I might need to do more japa, meditation, repeating the word Vaheguru, connecting to Gurbani, watching kathas, watching videos, whatever that might be. But then somebody might not need as much, but they're still cool. Like they can do less of that and they're still sailing in life. They're focused, they're controlled, they don't have those pulls. And the thing is, like, Gurmeet, we're going to try and armor you up as much as we can. So this isn't, we often say, well, amazing, brilliant, now look, he's made it. No, it's not that. For me, this is a beinti, a request to the sangat to say, let's do ardas and support brothers and sisters and Mavir here with their journey. I need that support. Yeah, and I've tried to set up as much as I can to receive that support by sangat. So this isn't a celebration to say you've made it. This is a celebration to say that you're on that battlefield. Breachon just brought up the bhagti, khet jo mandio surma ab jujan ko dao, that you're on the battlefield, fighting the battle, and we're here to do an ardas with you. An ardas means that we're going to be more conscious of the support that is required for you to continue swimming and having you head up, and then not looking down on you if there's a moment of where you do start drowning a little bit, but it's saying, oh, it's okay. We're just gonna jump in and pull you up. And we said this in the divan, but this is what Guru Nanak Dev Ji showcased to the world through Bhai Lehna Ji, saying Bhai Lehna Ji jumped straight into the mud when Guru Nanak Dev Ji threw this pot into the mud, and Bhai Lehna Ji says, I've got you. Like, that's what that signified. Guru Nanak Dev Ji didn't need that pot. It was just to show that this is what Bhai Lehna Ji is about. And that's why somebody then wrote a poem that there says, Sikh nahi Bhai Lehna varga. There is no Sikh like Bhai Lehna. But Guru Nanak saying, well, no, actually, take some inspiration from that Sikhi of you being that, saying, as Gursikhs, be ready to jump in the mud and say, it's all right, man. Like, if you fell this once or twice or 3 times, you've not completely gone. Yeah. Remember, it's a trajectory of this. It's not like, we just think we fly straight up. We're going up a step and we come down 1, but we've gone up 2, then come down 1, gone up 3, then come down 1, gone up 4. But what we do is we end up sometimes focusing on the one down in between the journey. But what we're saying is, like, it's okay. We're probably even expecting that one down every so often. But as long as then you've got so much support system in place to say, we got you. Not saying you've messed up. And this is that ardas that I often use, this shabad. And where the Guru says, look, aham andale and bikhe bikarate. I'm admitting that I've got poisonous habits. Yeah. Kyo chale gur chali. But I'm also saying there's a cry of help here. In there saying, how do I walk this path? How do I walk this path? So when I asked you that, do you want to walk away from some of these habits? What was your answer to me?
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. And it's so important to hear that. Yeah. And then we're saying, so you're actually asking that question. Kyo chale gur chali. It's not that I don't want to, but just because somebody wants to, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy to stop certain habits. And we sometimes think, well, you obviously don't want to, then that's not true. Yeah. Because to break a rut, I say, just like they say in Africa, that it takes a village to raise a child. That's what sangat means. It's we need to create a village to support each other. Yeah? So from putting up the inspirational paintings in your house, when you look at Baba Deep Singh sitting there, and Baba Deep Singh saying to you, I got you, Gurmeet Singh. I got you, man. And take inspiration from your name. Gur-Meet. I know we played with the words the other day and we said meet can mean meat. That's using the English version of it. But meet means mittar. Saying, let me put things in your life that you keep reminding yourself you are, that the Guru is your friend. Yeah. But the Sangat has to make you feel that the Guru is your friend. That's the Sangat's responsibility to say, the Guru is your friend. Satgur mittar mera bal sakhai. But then when you do start calling out, there's this little voice saying, Kyo chale gur chali, help. How do I walk this path? How do I walk this path? Something magic happens from that place, because the way nature works, it says Satgur daya kare sukh data. Compassion will start to flow through some form of means. Yeah? Your cry might hit my heart, and then some compassion starts to flow through. There's an exchange of compassion now. Yeah. And then hamlave apana pali. And then the Guru draws you to his hem. And it's not that you're not already be a part of the Guru. You just start getting closer and closer and closer and closer. That's why I said you don't need to put a time on it, 12 years. Just let it happen. Yeah.
It's funny we brought up my name, Gurmeet, and I never mentioned it, but all through my life, since that's my connection, Gurmeet, because that's one of the first things I did was look at what does this mean, because I didn't know
the next line says Gorsek meet. That's the next line in the Shabad is Gorsek meet. Chalo Gurchali. The Guru saying, oh Guru Sekh, oh friend. Yeah. Chalo Gurchali. Let's walk on the Guru's path. Yeah.
And that's, I can't express it enough. Just thinking of it in this moment, that I've always relied on that name of mine.
Wow.
From as long as I can remember. That was my strong connection. Gurmeet, like the Guru's friend. I always felt that connection, that the Guru is my friend.
Wow. And I think one of the biggest messages I want to give out to the Sangat is that you're still the Guru's friend, no matter where you are. The Guru is still your friend. You are still the Guru's friend, however you want to look at it. No matter where you are in the journey. If at the moment the cares aren't there, that doesn't mean you keep yourself then away from the Sangat. Then you need run into the Sangat, and if you that then the Guru says turde ko turda mile. When you start vibrating at a certain level, somebody's going to be there to receive you. That's there with you. They're going to say, oh, I was just waiting for you. There's people that are waiting for you. For the Gurmeets. Like they were saying, I was waiting for you. Where have you been? Huh? So, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'm just soaking in your words right now. I love sitting here and listening. Yeah.
But look, I know certain people might think that I say this just for the sake of saying it, but I feel humbled to have your Sangat. Because I've learned so much. And it's an opportunity of this flow of hearing you say that when you're doing CPR and you've had to step back and let something take over, and you mean Vaheguru.
Yeah.
And you were saying, like, just tell me in your words, and you're saying how from inside you're actually saying Vaheguru as you're...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, inside, under my breath, sometimes I've just closed my eyes and I've just stopped caring of what everybody thinks there for a moment, because this is Vaheguru here. This is the life, the death. It's in front of my face. It's a blessing. It's become a blessing to be, because it will happen whether I choose or not. It's not up to me, but I'm there in that moment. So it's a blessing for me to be there, and I want to give my best energy for it, my best place.
Gur-Meet. Gur-Sikh meet. Chalo Gur Chali. The Guru is actually saying to you, so this is Guru Ramdas ji saying to you, "Oh Sikh of the Guru, oh friend of mine, chalo," saying, "Come on, let's walk." Yeah, Gur Chali. Where shall I walk to? Walk on the Guru's stride. Walk in the Guru's stride. Meaning walk along with the Guru. Walk in the Guru's way. That's what it means to be a friend.
Yeah.
So, you were just mentioning to me now we just had a little break, that even though, yes, there was that relationship with the Vaheguru Shabad, but you, just before you had the experiences of connecting to Sukhmani Sahib, you went and Googled. What did you go and Google?
The name of the name Gur-Meet, my given name from when I was born.
But somehow, at some point, people called you Bobby as well, though.
Yeah, it was like a Western name given to me as well, like by my dad's coworker.
Okay.
So they named me. Okay, we'll put Bobby there too.
Okay.
But it wasn't.
So then you Googled?
Yeah, I really I thought I've never actually asked anyone or found out what Gur-Meet means. And when I found out, it was, for me, it was like, immediately uplifting. But as the years went by, it's been my meat. That name alone has been my friend.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's amazing. And that's what we was talking to Benji, to Ravi, to your wife, and we were saying, come on, let's really say this name properly. Let's not do the whole Gur-Meet thing. And like Gur-Meet, like it's powerful. Like Gur-Meet. Like that alone is enough to wake you up, isn't it? So I think Breachland's testing me here. Is putting some, this is by Nandalalji, and for me to pronounce this, Bekasan Rayar Guru Gobind Singh. Yeah, look, and Guru Gobind Singh Ji saying here is it's saying the supporter, but here they've used the word Yar. So a better translation would be Guru Gobind Singh is the friend of those that don't have anyone and don't have a true friend or friendship that serves them. So that's been your calling in the background somewhere, because you even went out and Googled it to know what it means. So I would say to Sangat sitting at home, Gurmukhi names are very powerful. And even if it means that you haven't been given a Gurmukhi name and you are born into a Sikh household, or you are trying to come onto this path, go and take a hukamnama, take a letter, and have a Gurmukhi name that speaks to you. So as that name has been speaking to you, and then Vaheguru has been turning up for you, if you share another experience from serving, 'cause I don't want to call it even just firefighting or a medical call, because again, I want Sangha to really understand that life can be lived in a state of, from a place of service, from a place of devotion. Doesn't matter whether you're getting paid for it or not getting paid for it. Don't segregate your life. So share something, how else that has turned up for you.
Do you know another story popped into my head as well? Because
Okay.
this is a miraculous thing that happened. I don't understand it.
Okay.
I may never in my life, but another story came up, and it was when I was going through a very tough time in my career of like service, and I won't call it firefighting, but the one story I think that you might like is, we get this excitement when you go to a call, and it's not just an excitement of adrenaline because of the lights and the sirens and everything going off, but it's an excitement that you get to go do something for someone purposeful. You're going to go, there's a purpose right now that you get to go do and try your best to fulfill. So it's not always like that when you get there, but you know that that's the possibility. So you get going, and there was this call, and it's like one of the calls that they always tell you that, it's serious when it's a child call, and the mother or father is outside, and they're just waving their arms, and they're like, here, it's over here. They're very out there for their child. So this was one of those calls where we're driving up, and at the end of the street, 100 meters away, you could see her waving her arms. If you've ever seen in distress, someone waving their arms above their head, and but this is it. That's where we're going right there. And we get there, and we are okay, mode on, like go. And we go inside, and we go up the stairs, and I'm not by myself. I got my support system with me, the rest of the crew that I'm with. But we go in, and I was the first one there, so it was my, we all fit into our place. We always gel and mesh and work around each other. So that was my place on that one. And it was a little girl. She was probably 7 years old, and her lips were blue. She was not breathing. She was not awake. But it's like by the Guru's grace, like it was such a big problem there in the moment. What do I do? But you just go through your paces, and it was as simple as pinching her really hard. And she just there was a reaction, and pinch again. And then she like started taking a breath. And then after, a short amount of time, I don't know, like 10 or 15 seconds, breathing, and the color started coming back in her lips. And I thought, is this it? This is what I don't understand what happened, but the blessing to be there. And
the pinching, was that training that
Yeah.
you was given to
Yeah.
pinch,
Yeah. Yeah.
or was that quite?
It was, but it was a part of our training, is that we're supposed to try to get some sort of a response.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is outstanding that to me, it's outstanding that actually saved this girl's life. I mean, how? I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those moments you're like, I can't believe that just happened. Like having got there and see that this girl is lying there, blue lips, not breathing, not awake, and you would assume that the parents have tried shaking her and like trying to wake her up somehow, get her breathing, but going there and seeing it was a one of the most scary calls you'll ever go to is when a child is not breathing or not there. It's the most terrifying call, and it's the ones you usually don't forget. This one, it was just such a blessing to be there that it was as simple as just pinching this. I think she was 7. You know, people think that it's like some heroic moment that, we're here. No, it was more like, how did this come about? I'm just the problem is solved. It wasn't a heroic moment, but that was one story I think you might like, because it was a save. It was good. And I remember driving back, one of my coworkers and a good friend, he just said, he goes, "You're a hero." And I was like, doesn't feel like it, but okay. But still, I still don't know what happened that day, but she's alive. And it was a blessing. It wasn't like it's not like I feel like it's me. I was there. It's a blessing that I was given those tools and be able to be there and all those, but it's not mine. Not my save. There. Now I'm going to take you from that light place, light and fluffy, to a tougher time, because this idea came into my head, and it was a moment that I won't ever forget. But it was a moment when I was struggling. I had taken some time out of the fire floor to take a break and just decompress from all of the things. If you could imagine, we've been to thousands of calls. So I don't remember all of them, but you carry this, sack full of, memories. And there's times where you need to just take a step away and sort it out. And this is one of those times for me. So I was doing other work, helping out, teaching fire extinguisher stuff, and out in the community, lighter, fluffier stuff, communicating with people maybe I normally wouldn't do that in the fire hall. So I was working my way back in to get myself sorted, and I remember driving home, and I was just driving, and a car accident had just happened, but it was brutal. It was a girl and a boy in their late teens, and a vehicle that had crossed onto the curb and drove right through them, right through the whole bus stop. And it was chaos for me. I'm like finding my peaceful moments driving home, totally in a different planet, outside of the fire hall. I haven't gone to calls for probably a few months. So I just felt this sense that I need to be of some service here. Maybe I can, maybe I can't, but I don't know exactly what happened, but I pulled my car over and I got out. And there was the boy who I didn't know how many people were hurt, but he was lying on the road. And then there was also a girl lying on the sidewalk, and it was just, if you can imagine, felt like a battlefield for me. I'm not saying it is a true battlefield, but it felt like that for me in that time. And I went over, and I had no personal equipment. Usually we have everything with us to help, but I was just driving home. So we triaged, and it was like, okay, there was someone there helping as well. Other citizens had stopped their cars, and can you help this? And this person, can you hold them? They seem like they're breathing, but the other person, I don't know. So I went and checked, and she wasn't. And I just started going through the paces and doing the CPR and checking her. And it was quite graphic. So I won't go into too much of it, but it was graphic. It was a hard thing to be at. And I just found myself in that moment, and I wasn't ready for it. But I just went through the paces, and then I saw the fire truck show up, and I was like, oh, they're here. and they came in, and they're like, Bobby, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I was just driving by, and we were doing CPR and trying to keep whatever it was, the breath, the life, every bit of it, just trying to keep it together. And I broke down. After they took over, I stepped back, and I just broke down. It was just a flood. And I remember that day, I was just wondering what would happen to them. And so I called the hospital, and I said, look, I was here. This is what happened. And did the person, were they okay? They said, no, they're not. They passed. But the work that you guys did allowed her to be alive long enough that her family could come say goodbye. So that was a moment where, I felt just a ton of emotion, and I felt the sense that I need to go back now. I need to work myself back into that thing that I need the most. Feeling of connection.
Gurmeet Singh, so just thank you for being a part of this, sangat and journey, and thank you to Vaheguru for working through the likes of yourselves to provide this service to the world. And it's important for us to understand that we shouldn't box off what service means and looks like, because Vaheguru's working through so many different ways. And for us to focus on these strengths and these gifts that Vaheguru has blessed to people, and it doesn't mean we are overlooking their struggles, because the people around them, it can be very difficult for them. So we're not pretending that those aren't there, but what we are saying is, if we highlight the gifts and we work with them more, just like Guru Nanak said to a thief who said to Maharaj that, you're asking me what I do for a living and I can't lie to you. His name was Bhumia, and he said, I wouldn't normally tell this to anybody. He said, but the way you've asked me, the truth is I'm a thief. That's how I earn this bread to feed you. And Guru Nanak said, well done for telling the truth. It's a gift. So we may not be perfect, but there are definitely gifts to be recognized. If we work with those gifts, they can get you through even the negative habits that you are struggling with. if we focus on them and provide the structure and support, and that doesn't have, all that weight doesn't have to be on one person, like your partner. We're in this together. You know, and that's what sangat means. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh. Cool.
Yeah.
Vaheguru.
Cool. Wow. I didn't think it was going to be like that. Wow. You're awesome. You're awesome.